Welcome to Hilary Emmanuel Ministries, where faith meets power, purity and prosperity, and breakthroughs are born. At Diadem, we equip you with bold prayers, life-transforming teachings, and spiritual strategies to overcome every challenge life throws your way. Join us as we dive into God's Word, experience His presence like never before, and walk in His purpose for our lives. If you're in London, we invite you to fellowship with us in person at Diadem, 4 Pegamoid Road, N18 2NG. Don't forget to subscribe now and let's grow in faith together.
Brethren, tonight is a night of book burning. Book burning. We are going to burn some books. That's what we are going to do here today. And it's that kind of prayers I always tell you. Keep this prayer in your archives, because it's not just ordinary prayer. It's one of those prayers that in Christianity you might not come across it. It's those kind of things that people will not even think in that direction. Because we are going to burn the books, the foundational books of afflictions. The foundational books of afflictions. Books is a mystery. It's a mystery. Books didn't originate from man, because man was created illiterate. Book is the wisdom of God, the knowledge of God that put it into the heart of man, how to read and write. Even though man was not meant to know how to read and write, it would have been better for us to remain the way we were created. Look at the Bible with me in Genesis chapter 5. That's from the very beginning. The very beginning. Look at verse 1. Genesis 5 verse 1. It says what? This is the book of the generation of who? Who wrote it down? Who wrote those books? Adam didn't know how to read and write. Who was then writing those books? He said, this is the book. And he called it something, generational book. Because it was not just only one generation. I will still read it to you. So you now see that from that point, every foundation, every generation, they have their books. What are the things they write in this book? The issue is that many of us have never seen the books before. The foundational books. The books of your father's house. The books of your mother's house. The books that are written down. And what are the things they write? And which generation wrote? Because every generation will document their own and leave it and go. What are the kind of information they write in those books? And who reads the books? Who are the people that read those books? In our Bible study on Tuesday, we were talking about how those spiritualists, those sorcerers, those wizards, how they were able to come before Pharaoh. And they told Pharaoh generational history. How did they get to know all those things? Things that are so peculiar and so detailed, family secrets. Those are the people that have the capabilities to break into any foundation, into any family, into any lineage, and read the books there. They know how to get to those places. They know the archives where they will find the books, and they know how to read and understand it. Unfortunately, we don't know what they wrote down in those books concerning us. But obviously, if you are a child of God, those books will not favor you. I'm going to show you from the scriptures. Genesis chapter 5. Look at that verse 1. He said, this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. These are the things they documented. These are the things they wrote down. Verse 2. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. So the book documented every detail, how they were created, and even blessing. Assuming God created them and caused them, they will have written it down. Because as they continued, and God had to cause them also, they wrote it down in that book. Verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness. So do you see that? So Adam lived 100. Nobody knows how old Adam was when God created him. But let's say 1 year old. Because the Bible now says at 130, That's when he had his child, at 130. So these are personal life histories, events in the family. He called his name Seth, verse 4. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Adam that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Verse 6. And Seth, another generation now. The book started to write. They've written everything about Adam in that book, kept it. They started with his children. And Seth lived after he had been, in verse 6. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. Why do they document their marriage? Do you see that why some people have trouble in their marriages is because of what is written down in their foundational books? What is written down in the foundational books. Verse 7, and Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. This one lived 90 years. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. Now, one thing you will see in this book of the generation of Adam and all other generations that follow them, what you will notice is this. Anyone that had any significant event or happening that happened in his days, or when he was born, or in his life, they will document it. They will write it down. You remember the council of those spiritualists that came to Pharaoh. The first one told Pharaoh that, look, their fathers, if you read the book of their generation, their great-grandfather, this happened to him. He has been tried in the fire. Fire couldn't burn him. He has been tried with this, and it burned him. They have fought war, couldn't kill him. Sword cannot kill him, and all those things. And so the other one came and said that they have tried them with this, tried them with this. Where do they get those information from? They had access to the books, because the books will document every detail. So you can see this generation of Adam, everything happening to them were clearly documented. Now look at this. If you read on which one gave birth to what and what happened in their time and so on. And look at verse 21. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. Do you see the other ones that did not go to church? They didn't write anything there. The one that went to God, that served God, they wrote it down. That one walked with God. The rest that didn't know God, they documented their life too. So look at what follows. Verse 23. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. He said he disappeared. God took him, they didn't see him again. And Lamech lived, verse 28. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hand, because of the ground which the Lord had cursed. So now, they documented it also, that their curse is affecting them. That the ground was not blessing them, was not producing enough for them anymore, because of the curse that God caused them. So do you see generational books, how it operates? It contains details of every single person born in that family. Every child. The moment that child is born, they begin to write everything about that child until the day he will die. Exodus 17, look at verse 9. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men, and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he laid down his hand, Amalek prevailed. Do you see, this was the book, the war. They fought in the foundation. They wrote it down too. The war. Look at what followed. Verse 12. But Moses' hands were heavy, And they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hand, and one side and the other on the other side. And his hand were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Verse 14. Take note. Verse 14. And the Lord said unto Moses, what did he say he should do? Write this for a memorial in a book. And Moses wrote everything. What happened? Brethren, do you know there are different battles they have fought in your generations? Not necessarily war. It could be battle against poverty. It could be battle against childlessness. It could be battle against diseases. It could be different kind of spiritual battle, demonic battles that they have fought in those generations, in those foundations, and they documented everything. But the issue is that they were written in an invisible books. They were written down in spiritual books. And only those who can read it, who can access it, they can read and see those information. Now, where does it affect us? How does it affect us? Where it affects us is that those spiritualists that can read those things, if they want to attack, I told you this before, that there's no attack that can prosper against anybody except that attack goes through the foundation. If that attack did not go through the foundation, it can never work. So now, if they approach your foundation, and those custodians of the books, those holding the books, like the foundational witchcraft, like the foundational occultism, like foundational altars, like foundational graves, if they approach them with a sacrifice and they allow them to read that book, that's where they will see everybody's weak points. They will say, you might be so young, you might be very young, but they will just tell them, look, this person, even though he's young, but it's also a person that reincarnated her. And that person that reincarnated her, this is her weak point. They will give all those details to the enemy. And they will tell them, if you want to affect her, use this and this. That's where our own trouble comes in. And they begin to deploy those weapons. And we begin to struggle. We begin to struggle as children of God. Not because God cannot deliver. Not because God cannot answer prayer. But because the secrets behind our attack is too much. It went through the foundations. And as long as that book or those books are still there in the foundation and they can still access them and read them, trouble will continue to come. And that's why we want to burn all of them today. That's why we want to burn them today. So look at what happened here. It was God. God said, he told Moses, say, verse 40, and the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book. And then do what? Rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Do you see that now? Do you see that? So, do you know that Joshua lived and died? Many generations lived and died until the time of Samuel. And Samuel read that book. And Samuel told the first king of Israel, Saul, he said, remember what God said. He's going to fight against Amalek. Go now and wipe out Amalek. Do you see where the generation of Amalek, they didn't do anything. It's based on what they wrote down in the foundational books that destruction came upon them. Do you know what they wrote down in your own foundational books? Do you know which family your family offended? Your ancestors offended? And they wrote it down that no matter when it will be, you must revenge. Look at this. Verse 15. And Moses, take note of the events of books. Moses didn't just write it and say, well, the Lord said I should write it. I've written it. That's all take. Look at the significance. Because when you write it physically, it has to become spiritual too. For it to be effective and powerful. Look at what Moses now did. Verse 15. And Moses built an altar. Because those are the libraries where they store such books. Foundational altars. Moses built an altar. And then he did what? And called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. So he built an altar and invited the spirit of Jehovah God upon that altar. So based on that book, if they build such a thing in your foundation, they will invite an idol. They will invite a deity. They will invite a demon. They will invite a fallen angel. They invite a dark spirit to come and inhabit that altar and sit on that book. And they put that book in the hand of that demon to hold it. Verse 16, for he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And that is written down in the foundational book. You now understand why some families, some foundations, some people, they have war all their lives. Grandparents will fight war with darkness, fight war with witchcraft, fight war with sickness and disease, fight different kinds of war with poverty, with failures. Every generation will fight that war. Some people is premature death. Some people is no good thing ever happens. Because of what? It's written down. Altar was built. And then a spirit being was invited to hold that thing and be a witness. Exodus 24. I'm showing you how the books are, how they are composed, how they are written. When they know what they are going to write in it, after writing it, see the operation that follow it. See the operation. And that's why the books, they live forever and ever. Because they are not ordinary books. They've been converted from just ordinary physical book to now spiritual books. Exodus 24. Look at verse 6. And Moses took half of the blood. Blood is involved now, brethren. Sacrifice is involved now. He took half of the blood and put it in basins. And half of the blood he sprinkled where? On the altar. He sprinkled the blood on the altar. Why is he doing this? Why is he bringing in blood? So that it will become what? A covenant. Look at verse 7. And he did what? And he took what? The book. Took the book of the covenant. Blood, book. He took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord has said, we will do, and be obedient. Maybe the time they wrote the one in your foundation too, everybody chorused it. And they agreed to it. Maybe what they wrote there is that every person born in that family must serve that idol. Everybody born in that family must serve from generation to generation. Pure dedication with blood. They say every person belongs to that idol. And now you came out and you refuse to belong to that idol. And it's written in that book. Verse 8. So the people now, they have, that's what you call consent. Spiritual consent, physical consent. Verse 8. And Moses took the blood. When he has read the book, the people answered him back. They agreed. That's covenant. That's agreement. He now took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. And he said, behold, the blood of what? Of the covenant, which the Lord has made with you concerning what? This thing we wrote down. So now, the blood has tied the people to that thing written down, to the book. These are things we have to deal with here today. All the blood of sacrifice and covenants tying us to different kinds of books, whether they be witchcraft books, occultism books, sorcery books. In the foundation, they have different kinds of books, not one. Different. For example, those who are into witchcraft in the foundation, those ones, they will have their register. They will have their register. Numbers 21. Look at verse 14. Wherefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord. They even have a separate book for wars, different battles, the book of the wars. And what do you think they will write down in this book of the wars? They will write down people that fought the different wars, the weapons they used, those who died in the war, those who were defeated, those who won the battle. Everything will be clearly documented. And they will say, those who lost the battle, why did they lose it? What was the secret? Because people that will read it, that will have access to it in the future, they will discover the secret of defeating that family. That if you want to defeat them, use this weapon. This was the weapon we used against them that prospered. 2 Chronicles 24. Do you know the whole book of Chronicles is the book of the families? The whole 1st and 2nd Chronicles. They are all book of foundational records. Foundational records. If you have time to read it, you will see that this one gave birth to this one gave birth to this one. All the whole stories of the kings of Judah, kings of Israel, and everybody, they documented everything. That's what you call generational books. Look at 2 Chronicles 24. Look at verse 22. He said, thus Joash the king remembered not the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but slew his son. And when he died, he said, the Lord look upon it and require it. He killed an innocent man. And when he was killing the innocent man spoke a word. He said, let God see what you are doing to me today, and let God avenge. He spoke it. You don't know what happened in your generation, maybe 10 generations ago, maybe 20 generations ago. You don't know. Possibly, because as I'm speaking, the Lord said I should say this now. Possibly, your foundational ancestors were involved in slavery. And when they will capture innocent people and sell them, those people will cry their spirit out. And in their pain, they will pronounce some things. And those pronouncements will go down straight into the foundational books. Possibly they will say that nobody born in that family will be free again forever. Do you see what we are dealing with here tonight? Look at verse 23. And it came to pass at the end of the year that the host of Syria came up against him, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the princes of the people from among all the people, and sent all the spoil of them unto the king of Damascus. For the army of the Syrians came with a small company of men, and the Lord delivered a very great host into their hand, because they have forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. So they executed judgment against Joash. Verse 25. And when they were departed from him, for they left him in great diseases. They left him after attacking him. They attacked him with diseases. His own servants conspired against him for the what? The blood of the son of Jehoiada the priest, and slew him on his bed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they buried him not in the sepulchres of the kings. Verse 26. And these are they that conspired against him. They wrote the name of the people that did it. They wrote it down. Where? In the foundational books. Those days when your ancestors were doing strong men, shedding blood anyhow. They thought that they were untouchable. And all those things are being documented in the foundational books. So they wrote that, they say, these are they that conspire against him: Zabad, the son of Shemet, and Ammonites, and Jehozabad, the son of Shemerit, a Moabitess. Verse 27. Now, concerning his sons, and the greatness of the burden laid upon him, and the repairing of the house of God, behold, they are written in the story of the book of the kings. So another book again. This one is the story of the book of the kings, which means everything that happened in the life of the kings, they document it in that place. And that's where people generate. Are we not reading it now? These are things that happened over 10,000 years ago. And we can go back now and pick it and read it. And even read their names. Hebrews chapter 9. Look at verse 16. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. I will read the next verse for you to understand what it means. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Which means the people that write those things down, those things they wrote down in their own lifetime, maybe they just made notes, they just recorded all those things. It's not powerful until they die. When they die, it becomes very, very powerful. How did the children of Israel and children of Judah end up in captivity? Was it not everything Moses wrote down? Because Moses told them in in Exodus 28, he said these curses will come upon them and overtake them if they refuse to serve God. Now look at what follows. He says, otherwise it is of no strength at all why the testator liveth. So the books, as more people write in the foundation and they die, the books become more and more powerful. Verse 18. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wood and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people. This is so significant that their children after how many generations, they made reference back to it. what happened that day. That these things, you people don't joke with it. That Moses took the blood of different kinds of animals and he gathered the people together, took the blood, sprinkled on the people and sprinkled on the book and tied them together with the book so that the book will be the one ruling their life. Do you know that many lives that are being ruled by books? There are many destinies that what is happening to them day and night is what is written down in a book. You don't know. So verse 20, saying, this is the blood of the testament which God has enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. He made sure he tied them, everybody. Maybe your own foundation, they sprinkle on the ground, they sprinkle on the water, they sprinkle everywhere, all around the family land, to tie everybody there to that book. Joshua 24. Look at verse 24. Joshua verse 24. And the people said unto Joshua, the Lord our God will we serve, and his voice will we obey. So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law. So there's another book, the book of the law. When there's a foundational book of law bearing witness against anybody, you'll be seeing number 10 all the time. Number 10. All the time. Dream 10. 10. It's telling you there's a book of the law that is speaking, that the content of that book is not to your advantage. The content of that book is not speaking well, good things concerning you. Now, do you remember the same operation that Moses did? When God spoke to Moses, Moses also wrote it down, took blood, tied them together with it. Now, this is the generation following Moses. They've started their own. After Joshua again, the next generation will do their own. Another generation will do their own. I will show you Samuel's own also. Every generation, this is how they write their book and tie it with blood, with covenant. And they are piling up. So 26, and Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God and took a great stone and set it up there under an oak that was by the sanctuary of the Lord. And Joshua said unto all the people, behold, this stone shall be witness unto us. For it has, he said, the stone has read all the thing I wrote down here. The stone had everything. So the stone also is a witness. All the word of the Lord, which he spake unto us, it shall be therefore a witness unto you, lest ye deny your God. Maybe the day they did your foundational one, I don't know who had and what to bear witness that day. Maybe they did it under a tree. Maybe that tree is still alive. Like that tree the Lord revealed to me sometimes ago. That tree was over 500 years old. And the tree was pregnant. So those are the places where you find those books. And they are the ones screaming loud. As you are shouting in prayer, they are shouting also. As you are screaming in prayer, those trees, they are also screaming. Those stones, they are screaming also. And say, no, we are there before all these things started. They will present the book before the Lord. Verse 28. So Joshua led the people depart. You know, that's how they do it. When they have written what they want to write, tie the people to it, they let you go home. Every man to his inheritance. And it came to pass after these things that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died. That the generation that do it, Moses did it, died. Joshua did it, died. Samuel did it, died. And they are piling up. The books don't die. 1 Samuel chapter 10, look at verse 24. And Samuel said to all the people, see ye him whom the Lord had chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. Verse 25. Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom and wrote it in a book. And unfortunately, it was not a good thing he wrote. He didn't write any good thing. He wrote it in a book, and then where did he put it? Where did he leave it? He put it before the Lord, before his spirit being, and then died and left and went away. Future generations will pay the price. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. The same thing that Joshua did, the same thing that Moses did. After doing it, packaging it, the book will remain where they kept it. Everybody go home. Psalm 40, look at verse 7. Psalm 40 verse 7. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of book. It is written of me. Many of us here, everything about our lives have been written in the foundation before we were even born. They even know you were coming. They knew you were coming. Everything about you, they have the information, documented everything. And unfortunately, such lives that have things written about them in the foundation, especially before you were born, such lives, it is the book that controls everything. From their birth to their death, it is everything written in that book that fulfills in their life. Everything. Because I told you, it's not ordinary book. It's spiritual book. And sometimes these books are written and placed on the altars. Sometimes they are written on the circle of the sun, or the circle of the moon, or the circle of the earth. Jeremiah 22. Look at verse 28. Jeremiah 22 verse 28. He said, is this man Coniah a despised broken idol? Coniah was a prophet and he was a prince. And he was troubling Jeremiah so badly. He gave Jeremiah a problem in his ministry. And look at the kind of thing the Spirit of God possessed Jeremiah to speak about Coniah. He said, is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? That is, look at what he said. Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into a land which they knew not. Verse 29. Earth, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, write this man childless. Where is earth going to write it, brethren? In a book that only the earth knows where it's writing it. And he said that not only him, his seed, his descendants after him forever. Before you, not just childless. One, he said he should make him a despised broken idol, which means the life will be useless life. All the children born to him, all his seed will be useless children. He says it's going to be a vessel wherein there's no pleasure. Anywhere they enter, nobody will like them. Nobody will like them. Nobody will favor them. He said, wherefore are they cast out? Anywhere they enter, they must be cast out. Everything will cast them out. He now say earth. Write it down. He called earth 3 times. And he spoke to earth by the word of the Lord. He said, write it down. Make sure Coniah and his children, they are childless forever. A man that shall not prosper in his days. So if the children of Coniah now suddenly find themselves in a church and say they are born again and they are now serving Jesus, all things are passed away. No, sorry, it doesn't pass like that. Not this kind of thing that are written down in the circle of the earth. They don't pass that way. They must deal with it until they see the end. So you now see, he says, they will never prosper. So if they want to do business, they are just wasting their time. Except maybe if they leave earth and go to Jupiter and go and do business there. Take note of what he said next. For no man of his seed shall prosper. And he said he should write it down. He said he should write it down in a book. And they will never sit upon the throne of David. They will never rule anymore in Judah. Brethren, I don't know the details in your own foundation. I don't know what, even my own foundation, I don't even know everything written down there. But we are going to fight today as the Spirit of God will direct us. And you know, prayer is a mystery. Prayer will locate the books wherever they are. And prayer will incinerate the books. I told you that this night is a night of book burning. And it's time now to start the prayers. Let's close our eyes. First of all, I want us to bring quality repentance and say, my God and my Father, everything that I did, everything that my parents did, everything that my grandparents did, everything that my ancestors did, everything that anybody did in my generations.
Thank you for watching. If this message blessed you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to join our growing community of faith. You've just listened to the sermon, but there are powerful prayers that follow. Due to social media rules and guidelines, the prayers have been removed from this video. However, you can access the full prayers and more life-changing resources by visiting www.pastorhillary.org or downloading our app, Diadem Media. If you're in the London area, we'd love to have you fellowship with us in person. at 4 Pegamoid Road, N18 2NG. If you have any questions about this message, want counseling from Pastor Hilary, or wish to share your testimonies following the prayers, please leave a comment below and someone from our team will get in touch. Until next time, may God bless you abundantly and guide you in all your ways. Stay victorious.